Hello, everyone. My name is Francesco Lecce-Chong. I'm music director of the Eugene Symphony and the Santa Rosa Symphony. And a big shout out to all of you who are participating this year in the Eugene Symphony's Link Up program from Carnegie Hall. This is one of my favorite programs to do each year because I know all of you are spending time studying the music, learning how to sing and play recorder. And then the best part for me, at least, is all of you get to come to the concert hall together and make music along with the orchestra. It's really one of my favorite concerts that I do all year. And last year, unfortunately, it had to be canceled because of the pandemic. And now, unfortunately, we're also going to lose our concert together this year as well. But I'm so proud of all of you for being a part of this program still and staying creative and using your imagination and all the important things that we do as humans when we make art, when we make music together. And I know this year has just not been the easiest one for anyone. We haven't been able to do the things we want to do, and we have to go through, some extra things every day to make sure that we can keep ourselves and those around us safe. But, if you look throughout history, like human history, through all of the darkest and the most difficult times that we've gone through, art, music have been ways that we cope with that. It is such an intrinsic part of being human. And so when you're making music, when you're a part of this Link Up program, you're not just doing something for yourself, but you're also inspiring everyone around you. And knowing how many of you are out there still doing this inspires me. And so I thought, since we can't all be in the concert hall together, well, at least I could spend some time with y'all and we could hang out and talk a little bit about this amazing program, the Orchestra Swings. And I'm so excited to be able to share with you some fun music, some pieces that you'll already know, and just some of my own thoughts on this amazing program. So let's get started with what is swing? And I'm sure it's something you all have been talking about as well. I think on its most basic level, when I think of the word swing, it's this whole era in American history from around like 1930 to 1945, somewhere in there. It was the hottest thing on the planet. And it's still a style, of course, that continues on to today. It's probably my favorite style of dance. It was not only music, but it was a dance that went with that music. And if I could be a dancer, I would want to specialize in swing dancing. And I have tried, but believe me, I learned very quickly that I should stick to playing music and not trying to dance to it. But it is amazing. I love it so much. I love the music and everything that goes with it. So I thought, let's just start off by getting to listen to and watch some great swing. So these are dancers today and how they swing, but it's exactly coming out of the whole swing era. So here we go. Check this out. This is super fun, I think. Isn't that fantastic? Man, I just love it so much. And such, I want you to keep in mind, not just how the music sounds and what it looks like when they dance, but the feeling that you get, right? When you're listening to it and when you're watching them, and that feeling of just being carefree and letting things just kind of happen. It's just a great feeling to have, like, in life in general. And we'll get to that in a little bit, because, you know, swing can grow to be so many other things as well. So that's kind of like, you know, swing at its most basic level, the whole era, the style of music and the style of dance. Now, swing actually, as a musician, has a very, very specific meaning. It's actually a rhythm, a very specific rhythm, a swing rhythm. And when we're musicians, sometimes, you know, we'll talk to each other and say, hey, should we swing those notes? That's something that we'll say. And so I thought I'd give you a little example using actually probably the very first piano piece I ever learned. And maybe a lot of you know it as well. It's called Heart and Soul, and you can play it as a duet with another person. And it's a really fun, easy piece to learn if you haven't learned it yet. But it was one of the first pieces I learned. And it goes something like this, and probably you'll recognize it. Now, here's the thing. That's what the piece is basically supposed to sound like. But if you were to write it down, okay, and a musician were to play it, what we would say straight, okay, so not swung, but straight, it would sound like this. So what is that? Well, it's just everything's even, right? So you play... But when you want to swing it, so if I played that and a musician said, hey, could you swing that for me? It's kind of a combination of long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. So that's how you swing it. So let's go back. So that was the straight version. And if someone said, hey, can you swing that? Then it actually sounds like Heart and Soul, where we go long, short, long, short, long, short. So it's pretty cool how you can take a piece and the whole character of it changes if you swing it, okay? So that's a very specific rhythm and a technical term that musicians will use to each other to describe the kind of rhythm and the kind of feel that you want for a piece of music. Speaking of feeling, let's talk about that last one, right? Because, you know, the program is called the Orchestra Swings, and maybe by now you've figured out that orchestras don't play swing music, right? Because swing music is played by a band or, you know, like a jazz group, but you wouldn't, like, an orchestra itself wouldn't play swing music. As you'll see, we play music that's inspired by swing. We play swing music that's been arranged for the orchestra, but swing music at its core, of course, is not for orchestras to play. So how does an orchestra swing? Well, go back to that feeling, right? Go back to that feeling that you got from watching those dancers, and I think that's maybe the sense that we get when we think about swinging. Because you know, if you were to say to someone, hey, let's swing it, you know, let's just swing it, you know, you're basically saying, like, hey, let's be in sync, let's be in the groove, and let's be carefree, and let's just let it happen. Let's just let it happen, you know? And we have to do that in music all the time. When we play, you know, as an orchestra, you have to be so in tune with each other, just like jazz musicians need to be. It's just for us in a very different way, but it creates the same feeling of just like swinging it. And there's three pieces that I want you to listen to little clips of that I think represent an orchestra swinging, basically kind of a high wire act, really exciting music. And all of these musicians, 80 to 100 musicians on stage, all kind of swinging it together, making sure that everything works out in the end. So check this out. The first example is going to be a bit of a work by Dvorak. This is his 8th Slavonic Dance. Okay, so there's a little bit of Dvorak. You can see how the orchestra is just kind of swinging it together. Here's another example. This is a dance that an orchestra would play called a waltz. And this is a wonderful waltz by composer Richard Strauss from an opera called Rosenkavalier. Let's check that out. So you can get a sense, if you notice some of the expressions and some of the way the musicians move is almost similar to how you might move if you're doing swing. And so it's the same kind of carefree and fun feeling that we need in this kind of music. Now, the last example is stretching it a little bit, but I really believe it's also a version of how an orchestra swings, because this is one of the most difficult pieces for all the musicians to be able to be right in the groove together. It's a piece by Stravinsky. It's a ballet called The Rite of Spring. It's one of the classics in the repertoire. And the very end of this piece is absolutely crazy. It's so difficult, and all of these things are happening really, really fast, but it all has to be really precise at the same time. And if there's ever a piece where I think of just like, we'll swing it and see what happens, it's The Rite of Spring. So check this out. Crazy, right? Oh my god, I love that piece so much, and it is just amazing. So you can see when we talk about swing as a feeling, any musician can swing, right? When we need to be able to be loose and fast and spontaneous and be able to react quickly, that's what it is with swing music, that's what it is with swing dancing, and that's what it is when an orchestra swings. And maybe you found some other ways to think about swing music as well, or that feeling. But those are some of my thoughts on it. Now, in future episodes, we're actually going to check out some specific composers that you've been learning about and that I love. And I'm also looking forward to introducing you to a couple amazing composers who are working today. So I'll see you next time, everyone.